this is about us understanding how working life is tough. It was already tough before lockdown, and the extra challenges the sector has gone through since COVID. You know, we need to take moments to look after ourselves. The reason we've put this out at lunchtime is we want this to be accessible to everyone, whether you're working from home or working from the office. I want to have regular moments where we can take a step back and look after ourselves and be mindful of our needs, especially in our working and creative practice. So this is a collaboration between Red Eye Photography Network and the Photographic Collections Network to create a series of workshops which aim to give you different tools. Each month we'll be having a different practitioner to give you a range of different tools, some of which you might connect to in different ways. And also we're going to be putting recordings from these sessions of highlights on YouTube, so you can check back in and join in later again if you want to. Feel free to join in with your cameras on or off. There will be a 30-minute session, and then at the end is 15 minutes just to check in and chat if you want to. Feel free to stay for that. Let us know how you got on and what you enjoyed, and just talk about your well-being. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Stuart McLeod, who, like I mentioned, is runner, Buddhist, mindfulness teacher, Tai Chi expert, and many, many more things. And I'm really looking forward to your session today. Thank you for joining us, Stuart.
Yeah, thank you very much, Debbie. And yeah, very grateful to BCN and Red Eye for the invitation to come and spend some time with you today. So yes, thank you for that very generous introduction. That saves me needing to say anything more about kind of who I am. Other than just to say, I suppose, the context in which I'm offering the session today, because of my kind of training and background, is the application of mindfulness and awareness, both in the sense of stillness, so sort of with some sitting practice we'll be doing shortly, but also how we can bring awareness into movement. So kind of translating from the idea of maybe mindfulness and meditation just being about something we do sitting on a chair or on a cushion, versus the reality of its importance of application to everyday life. So we're going to get a little bit of a snapshot of that today. Because time, I realise, is tight, I just wanted to say a few words of introduction about mindfulness itself, only because it tends to be, it's a word that is very much contemporary now, hasn't been around really all that long. Maybe I should say in the last decade, the word mindfulness has really come into public consciousness. And I think while we've all got some of a sense, our own sense of what we think it might be, it can be useful just to spend a brief moment just for me to share a little bit about my perception of what mindfulness is and how it can maybe support us in understanding what we're going to be sharing today. So while mindfulness itself is essentially quite an ancient practice deriving from sort of meditative and contemplative traditions, particularly Buddhism, it has had a much more modern application really in the last 40 years in the way that it's been taught. So my training, for example, is in teaching a practice that's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. So its application today is much more in support of personal well-being. Specifically with the name of the practice I just described, mindfulness-based stress reduction, it tends to have that focus on supporting our well-being in the context of how we can, I guess, navigate some of the challenges of life. And all of my teaching in the last couple of years has been, one of the values of it has been that there's not been anybody that hasn't been affected by some aspects of the same sort of global goings on, if you like. So there's that sense of shared challenge that we've all been living through. So, we've all been impacted in different ways. I'm talking predominantly about the pandemic, but of course there's been other challenges going on, and we're now emerging into, there's a lot of talk of, as we all know, about cost of living, climate change, etc., and whatever touches your life particularly. So this is where these practices can have real benefit. And with this focus on stress in mindfulness-based stress reduction, what I'm trained to teach, one of the sort of starting points is acknowledging that stress is actually a reality and a part of life. So rather than thinking of, when challenge presents itself, this is something I need to push away, there's immediately a danger that we can slip into the idea that that somehow this is wrong and not wanted, rather than looking maybe at what resources do I have and what resources can I cultivate to support me to better work with the inevitable challenges that life will throw at us. So again, very briefly, there's a definition I like to work with I'd like to offer you that explains really what mindfulness is. And it's said that mindfulness ultimately is a quality of paying attention. So it's quite simply that it's about how we pay attention to a given activity at hand. And it's said that there's three ways in which we pay attention. The first is that we pay attention on purpose. So what that means is, I appreciate there's people from sort of different, different kind of career backgrounds here, but you'll all have your day-to-day work of some description. To apply mindfulness to your day-to-day work or any given activity, that first quality of paying attention is actually choosing to be present with whatever it is we're doing. What that's pointing towards is this idea that we can spend a lot of our time functioning on what's sometimes referred to as autopilot, hopefully a phrase we've all heard, but that idea of you can almost switch off from doing an activity because it's routine and familiar. So actually this quality of mindfulness, this quality of paying attention is involved initially in choosing to be there, to be present, to be with the activity. It's then said that the second way in which we pay attention is by paying attention to the present moment. So what that's referring to is helping us appreciate that actually when we stop and analyze our day-to-day experience, we can spend an awful lot of time processing things that have gone before or anticipating things that are coming, and quite often not actually sort of dwelling in the present moment. So this quality of paying attention is to focus on actually what's arising here and now. And it sort of touches back on what I was mentioning a moment ago about when we're aware of stress and challenge in our lives. It's about that ability to be present, to meet it where it is, and just to notice, okay, this is what's going on right now. And then finally, the third quality of how we pay attention that defines mindfulness is paying attention non-judgmentally, so without judgment. And quite simply, what that's pointing towards is the fact that, again, when we stop and look at our experience, often whatever activity we may be engaged in, whatever event may be our present moment experience, when we look closely, we're often caught up in a kind of a push and pull of liking and wanting more, not liking, pushing away. So it's always a kind of a this and that experience when we analyze our experience a little bit more closely. So mindfulness then brings this quality of non-judgment to our experience. Non-judgment doesn't mean sort of passive resignation. So if we're in a difficult situation and it requires some form of response, to be present and to be there without judgment allows us, in theory, to be able to respond to what the situation requires quite naturally. So anyway, that's a very quick canter through something of a definition of mindfulness in these different facets of how we pay attention. But critically, mindfulness is an experiential thing. So I can sit here and theorize with you all day, and I think the more I theorize, the more I'm just dumping information on you. Actually, it's all really about practical application. So what I'd like to do, what we're going to be doing now, is sharing together a couple of practices that I'll be guiding. One will be sitting down, and then we'll transition from sitting down to moving, and then we'll just have a little bit of time after that for a little bit of an exploration of how we got on with that experience, and then I guess we'll move into that wider final period of time that Debbie was describing about the final 15 minutes of the session. So the first practice, as I say, is going to invite you to sit down. So just purely from a sort of practical point of view, you may all be sitting on if you're sitting on something like a sort of dining chair or a computer chair, that's fine. If you're maybe, I don't know, on a sofa, the invitation is to try and adopt a posture where your back is upright. So what we're trying to avoid is a kind of sitting in such a way that we're going to be slumping over, which will tend to immediately affect our energy. So I'm just going to invite you to find a posture that enables you, if that's okay for you, to support your own weight. And if you'd like to, I'm going to invite you now either to close your eyes, if that feels okay to you. If you prefer to leave the eyes open, seeing how it is just to allow your gaze to lower and to soften. So essentially what we're not doing is sort of staring straight ahead. So our gaze is soft, or we can close the eyes. And now beginning to bring our awareness to the body's various different points of contact. So if you're sitting on a chair, the invitation is to have the legs uncrossed so that both of your feet are flat on the floor. And perhaps noticing any sensations of contact at the soles of the feet. Noticing too where your body is meeting your seat. Perhaps you're aware of a sense of pressure at the sitting bones. And aware too of the contact where your body is supporting your hands. Perhaps your hands are resting on your thighs, they may be in your lap. And from these various points of contact of the body, just allowing our attention to broaden so that we hold a sense of the whole of the body, this broad awareness of the body all the way from the soles of the feet to the top of the head. And so with our various sitting practices, there's a brief phrase we use that describes our sitting posture. We describe it as being alert but relaxed. So this alertness comes from what I described a moment ago of seeing if we can support our own weight. So we have this sense of the spine lengthening. So rather than sort of leaning back into a chair, seeing if we can bring a quality of uprightness into the posture. At the same time, allowing the body to soften. So what does it mean to soften or to relax the body? Well, it just means bringing attention to maybe where we might be holding ourselves slightly. Sometimes we're holding the body and we don't really notice. The shoulders are a typical place. So just seeing, can we just bring a bit more of a quality of ease into the shoulders, just allowing them to drop down. Likewise, some of the muscles of the face, particularly around the eyes, we can often be slightly holding here too. So softening the face, softening the shoulders. And so with this broad sense, this broad awareness of the body, now we're going to bring a closer focus of our attention to our breathing. And to begin with, bringing our awareness to the tip of the nose. So here we may notice the sensations of cool air as we breathe in. And noticing too the warmer air leaving the body on the out breath. So simply resting awareness on the flow of breath, the tip of the nose. Aware of sensations as the breath passes at the tip of the nose. And as we continue to sit with the intention of bringing our awareness to our breathing, it's likely that we'll notice at some point that the mind is beginning to wander. And so this is a very normal part of these practices. This is generally what our minds do. They will tend to wander around. We can become scattered. And if we do notice the mind wandering, we simply notice, we acknowledge that's what's happened. And just with an attitude of kindness and gentleness, just bring our attention back to the breath, in this case, at the tip of the nose. Next, inviting you just to begin to broaden the awareness of the breath. So, extending beyond awareness of the breath at the tip of the nose, where the passage of the breath down through the throat, the sense of the filling of the lungs on the in-breath. And noticing too the expansion of the upper body as we breathe in. Noticing the expansion of the chest, the rib cage, a slight rise of the shoulders. And with each out-breath, aware of a sense of sinking back in of the upper body, kind of a release and a relaxation. Breathing in, the upper body opening and expanding. Breathing out, the upper body releasing and relaxing. So maintaining awareness of the breath in the upper body. Gentle flow from in-breath to out-breath. The out-breath giving way to the next in-breath. So now beginning to allow this closer focus of attention on the breathing to relax, and broadening our attention back into an awareness of the body. Just inviting a felt sense of the whole body sitting. So in a moment I'm going to be inviting us to transition from wherever it is we're sitting to finding a space to stand, where I'm going to guide us in some gentle movement together. What I'd like to invite is, as we prepare to get ready to move, is just seeing if we can stay with our present moment experience. So maybe noticing the anticipation of getting up to stand, actually present with the movement of the body as we do transition from sitting to standing. This is just the way in which we learn to cultivate more moment-to-moment awareness. of our direct experience. And so if your eyes have been closed, choosing when you're ready to allow them to open. And then we'll move from here to standing, finding a space where you can stand. So if you can find a space just where you can open your arms out to either side, ideally without knocking into anything, and similarly if you can bring your hands forward and above your head without knocking into anything. So you just your feet will be staying where they are, but just we're going to be doing a little bit of movement of the upper body. Appreciate you can only see my upper half, but that's all you need to be able to see. And to begin with, simply bringing our awareness now to the body standing. So we've moved from a position where we've had our limbs bent, folded in some way. Now the arms are hanging by our sides. Our legs are straight. And all of our weight is now being supported through the feet. And so we're just going to be sharing a sequence of very gentle movements together, and quite simply with the invitation, just being present with the sensations in the body as we move. So to begin with, on an in-breath, extending your arms away in the front of the body, drawing the hands back towards you, and on an out-breath, just gently lowering both of the arms back down and repeating. So it's an in-breath as we extend the arms away, and an out-breath as the hands sink back down. Breathing in and breathing out. You don't need to follow the exact pace at which I'm moving, so just allow your own natural rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Support the movement. And seeing if you can really bring a quality of softness into the upper body, particularly softening through the shoulders. And with your awareness focused on the sensations in the body. So where do we notice this movement? Where do we feel and experience the movement? Perhaps we notice sensations in the hands, through the arms, in the shoulders. Sensations at the soles of the feet, where our weight is being supported. We'll just do one more repetition here and transition to another movement. This begins with an in-breath, extending both palms up to either side. The hands come up above the head. On an out-breath, hands lower back down the center line, and repeating. Breathing in, opening up into the space above, breathing out. Sinking back down the center line and repeating. Gains with a real sense of softness in the upper body. Aware of the movement, the sensations of the movement. Okay, we'll do one more repetition together and then we'll transition to our final movement. This time as the arms come down by our sides, in breath, taking the arms to about 45 degrees, and an out breath as they come back down. So very simple and gentle movement, breathing in and breathing out. And again, where do we notice the sensations of this particular movement? Where are we feeling and experiencing the movement? Just one more repetition. And we'll finish now by bringing the palm of the right hand into connection with the belly, just below the belly button. The left hand comes over the top of the right. And to finish with centering our attention on the breath in the belly. And then whenever you're ready, releasing the hands and in your own time, making your way back to your seat.